your mouth shut. It's not that. Yeah, it's not that hard.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Yep.
Good advice.
I've heard that many times. Many times.
You would think.
Yeah, right.
Think.
It's been a whole decade of that.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Tom Holland, and I'm here joined with the wonderful cast of Spider-Man Brand New Day, and today we will be answering some burning questions with IMDb.
All right, let's do a quick warm-up here. Raise your hand if your character does something in this movie you've been dying to talk about and just can't.
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just excited to see everybody. So I think that's.
John, you have to think about that for a second?
I guess so. Dying to talk about? Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
You get to smile.
Huh? Yeah, and like there's stuff I don't. There's stuff. Yeah, man. Yeah.
Tom, let's start with you. Now, we've seen Peter as a high schooler, then a world traveler, then a sacrifice. What chapter of Peter's life are we in now?
I think in this movie you get to see him living with the consequences of that sacrifice. I think after, the last movie, he was lucky enough to get to meet his kind of bigger brothers in Toby and Andrew, and they imparted some wisdom on him. And like all young people, he is ignoring the wisdom of his elders, and it is coming at a great cost.
I'm sorry, but you're in danger. What? I promised you that I would keep you safe. Please, you just have to trust me. Come on.
Zendaya. MJ has always been the smartest person in Peter's world. In Brand New Day, does she still have that edge among her friends?
Oh yeah, only sharper. She's only getting
sharper.
better with time, like fine wine.
Oh yeah.
In their Brand New Day, I think it's really nice to see that Ned and MJ are still very close. They've moved back to New York together. They're starting a new chapter of their lives, trying to figure out, who they're gonna be in the world. And I think she's, without kind of even knowing it, inherited some of Peter's optimism. I still think she feels like something's missing, but I don't know if she knows exactly that it's someone missing.
I'm MJ.
You two don't know each other? Now, Jacob, this is the first Spider-Man movie where the villain isn't an old mentor or a friend. How does that change the stakes this time around?
I mean, it's still pretty high stakes. I don't think that changes at all. But I'd imagine that it's going to get really worse for Peter because again, he doesn't have his support system around him, and him being alone, as we've seen a lot of superhero movies, never really ends well. And so hopefully he can find his way through this new chapter in his life without blowing it, because Ned and MJ usually are there to help him out. Put us more in the movie, but no.
All right, Sadie, you're up next. Maybe you've heard, but the entire internet has a theory about who you're playing. Without confirming or denying anything, how does it feel to be the most speculated about casting of the year?
Oh wow, it kind of shocked me a bit. Just like the sheer volume of characters I was rumored to be playing. I kind of stopped keeping track at one point, but definitely ready for this secret to be no longer a secret.
When did you realize the enormity of the interest in your character?
Pretty quick. Yeah, it was pretty quick.
Is it hard to fend off questions from your friends?
Not really. Just keep your mouth shut. It's not that. Yeah, it's not that hard.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Yep.
Good advice.
I've heard that many times. Many times.
You would think.
Yeah,
you
right.
Would think.
It's been a whole decade of that.
All right, John, the MCU just got a lot more crowded on Peter's doorstep with some familiar faces. Is Spider-Man ready for this level of company?
Yeah, I guess you're just gonna have to watch and find out. There's definitely a bit of a cautionary tale there. I don't think Frank is asking anybody to follow in his footsteps, and I don't think he looks at himself as really a safe haven or somebody to emulate at all. And I'm excited for people to see the relationship.
The hell, Frank? You just hit me with a van!
Quit your whimpering.
Now, as we know, you and Tom have a close professional relationship. You guys have collaborated a lot. What was it like to finally share scenes in a Spider-Man movie like this?
Really beautiful to witness and to see. And we got to spend a lot of time together last year, and it was great. I really care about him. I really believe in him, and I'm very much in awe of him.
This next question's for Tom, Zendaya, and Jacob. You've been doing this together for 10 years. What's a shorthand you three have on set now?
Fa.
I don't know. I think with time comes wisdom, and also just like maybe a little bit more assurity of yourself, of your character. And I think there was a few times where we'd be in scenes and we'd all kind of feel amongst each other that maybe it wasn't working. And I think maybe before we kind of would have been like, maybe just talk about it later, like when we're all in our trailers, and just be like, well, I hope it worked out, But I think with this and with Dustin's guidance, I think we were able to kind of all feel, and he fit into that too. Dustin somehow is a part of the crew so quickly, like he gets it. And I think we all just can catch each other's energy, and there's no shame in trying to like figure it out again and taking our time and going back to the drawing board, which I think maybe we would have been a little nervous to do back in the day.
No, that's definitely pretty true. I feel like they've also dealt with me like always improvising lines anyway. So I feel like a whole 10 years of that is you get used to it.
I mean, you can take the guy out of the chair, but you can't take the chair out of the guy.
Sadie, what is it like to come into a cast like this that's been together for so long?
Really fun. I've loved hearing all of the stories and everything. It was interesting timing because I was just leaving a show that I had done for 10 years. So it's cool to kind of be an outsider, I guess. But yeah, everyone was so welcoming.
But you're not an outsider though.
Yeah,
you're a part of it.
It's really part of the fam.
All right, Tom, what's the worst thing about wearing a Spider-Man suit for 12 hours?
The worst thing is definitely the smell. I'm not gonna shy away from it. You spend 12 hours in that thing in a deep lunge, jumping up and down all day. That stinks. We were really lucky with the costume department we had on this movie. We did a really interesting exercise when we were in pre-production where I tried on Toby's suit, I tried on Andrew's suit, and I tried on my original suits, and we sat down with the producers, with Destin, and the costume department, and we spoke about the things that we all loved about the previous kind of works of art that were those original suits. And there was an amazing kind of creative luxury that we had because my Peter got the chance to meet those two guys in the last movie. So the idea behind the design of the suit was to try and make an homage to the things we loved about those original costumes. And then from a logistical point of view, Andrew and Toby, they had it way easier than I had it. They had zips in different places. They could use the bathroom. They could take their mask off by themselves. They could take their gloves off.
Crazy.
Which I still couldn't do on this.
But
He's still on one.
For the fourth iteration of this character was the first time I could comfortably go to the bathroom.
And then could you drink with the mask on?
Well, on this movie, I could take it off. Whereas in the previous movie, it was so tight and attached that in order to take the mask off, you'd have to take the top off. So in this movie, it gave us a lot more freedom, and it also made working with Destin a lot easier because, it is weird when you're talking to someone with a mask on, and you're trying to have like a human conversation. And I know you guys have to deal with that in scenes a lot, where it feels like I'm giving absolutely nothing, just because I'm just essentially a giant tennis ball at that point. But one of the really awesome things that we discovered while we were shooting, they had designed these new lenses, and in certain light, the camera looks straight through those lenses and you can see my eyes underneath the mask. And there was a conversation of like, is that a good thing or a bad thing? And I think it was Destin that said, I love being able to see that there is actually someone beneath that suit. And there are certain moments in the movie where it really humanizes, the superhero.
I love the imperfections of the suit.
Yeah, me too.
It wrinkles and it moves and you can see your ears a little, like and
My
your
ears
jaw.
are
The jaw movement, the ability to articulate and see that you're really in there, I think is really, I don't know, I love those details.
In the original movies, the suit was kind of 3D printed. It had this texture to it that made it feel almost like a basketball. But the trade-off for that was that the fabric was so stiff. For me to try and articulate the jaw while talking, I would have to open my mouth really loud, wide.
That's gonna be a meme.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a meme, big dog.
But but now with this new suit, we did away with that 3D printing element, and it allowed me to be so much more flexible, and the suit was much stretchier. So it was definitely a comfier experience. That is definitely gonna be.
Punisher started on Netflix, crossed into Born Again, did a one-shot, and now he's in Spider-Man. Does Frank Castle feel like the same man you first played, or has he evolved in a good way?
He's somebody who's reeling, he's somebody who's in this sort of spiral of darkness, and the truth is he doesn't want to get out of it. And I think what's interesting is when people sort of break through the armor a little bit, when people kind of offer a hand, or all of a sudden he finds himself caring a little bit. And those two things at conflict, wanting only to sort of stay in that spiral, not looking for any light, but I think it's a real exercise in being a human being, because I think it's impossible, as hard as we try, the light's gonna shine through. And I was really glad we got to dive into that in this project, and it's really been at the kernel of everything with Frank.
Maybe I'm gonna keep going, huh?
Zendaya, you've been kind of having a year on IMDb. 4 movies and a final season of Euphoria. Of everyone you played this year, which character would MJ actually get along with?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Dang. I think she would really like Chani.
That's what I was gonna say, the same thing.
I think they have like the same core principles and values while they present very differently in the world and living in thousands of years apart. There's like a core there, like of a moral kind of compass that they both share, very strong in who they are and what they believe in, which I admire. And also I feel like MJ is someone who would read Dune.
Yeah.
You know? I feel like she's
Dune for
definitely
sure.
read all of
Dune
the
Yeah.
Dunes. Yeah, for sure.